I want to welcome you to this week's episode of the CBC Home Service Success Network. This is a broadcast intended to go out for managers, owners of home service companies across the USA. We're getting a lot of views every week. We appreciate those of you who are watching, appreciate the likes and all that kind of stuff. Hey, feel free to share it, get it out to your friends. Maybe it will help some of them. So every week we try to pick a topic that we know is something that can help the listeners. And this week is no different because today we're going to be talking about bottom line profit. Where is it disappearing to? Because here's one thing we're seeing. People are making fantastic sales many times, but at the end of the job, when it's all said and done, we haven't made profit. And many times we've even paid for the privilege of doing a job for consumers. So we want to talk today about that to see if we can come up with some answers that people can look at of where's the profit going? Where did it go to? What's happening? Because again, I think that one thing that's happening today is there's such a push for making sales, but we don't have the proper process to make the follow through. As I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking about McDonald's and the way the McDonald brothers invented and designed their speedy food system, which their concept back when this came out was a burger from the grill to the counter serving the customer was 30 seconds or less. If you ever get a chance, watch the movie The Founder. It's a story of Ray Kroc and the McDonald brothers, but you'll see how the McDonald brothers put together their speedy food system. But this is what I want to talk about today. What's happening? Are the jobs going off course? Is it because people are not working efficiently? Is it because we don't collect the right information to start with? Is it because we don't prepare the customer and the customer's expectations are not met? So I'm going to start out. This is an area that Josh works in a lot with SOPs, standard operating systems, and designing tracking systems up for companies that he works for so we can narrow down on this issue. We were just talking before we came live, where he's working with a customer that they used to produce 3 jobs of this type in a day, and now they're down to 1. I was also talking to another client this morning that jobs that should be turning out in 1 to 2 days now are taking 4, 5, and 6 days to turn out these same jobs. And I think as managers, as owners, we got to take a hard look at this and figure out what's going on out here in the world. Where's our profits going? So, Josh, I'm going to go to you first. What's your thought process on this?
So one of the first things it comes to how is the job being bid and data collection is one of the first things that we find is that we have usually bad data points. And let's just, as we were talking before, a whole job can go bad. Let's just say the salesperson talked about an 8-inch raised hearth and that didn't communicate to the installer. Let's just say in some cases, I know one of your clients up in New Hampshire, the client's actually not in state. They're out of state. They're vacation home, so no one's there. So if now that one person built it to the ground and the homeowner had a vision of raising it up and, now you got to scrap it all out. You got to scrap it all out. So one of the things that I've been working with a few clients is just a data collection form. What are we talking about with the customer? What are all our data points when it comes to picking out how we design the fireplace? So let's just say we're bumping into the room. How far are we bumping? It's a form. How far are we bumping into the room? I have a little diagram there. How tall are we making the enclosure? Because sometimes some people just want like where you could put a little TV stand. Some people envision you going up the whole wall. I have a 16-foot wall in here. That's a lot. Those are big contrasts, and those are bid completely different. Are we putting a hearth in front? Many gas fireplaces don't need a hearth. So are we charging for that? How are we finishing the hearth? Are we Are we getting everything ready for stone? Are we drywall? Are we doing finished drywall work? As I will tell people, that's not something I ever want to do again, is finished drywall work. As I'm redoing a bathroom right now, I could pull my hair out. There's so many data collection points to do these correctly. And then you can actually build some guardrails in there. You can say, okay, if we're doing, let's just say a standard, most of our finished materials are in 4-foot widths. So we know we can, off a 24-inch deep, up to 24 inches deep, up to 8 foot wide. We know that's 3 sheets of plywood. So now from a budgeting standpoint, now we know, that's $75 in plywood. But if we go above that, then we have to start having other conversations, that need to pull it back into the custom world. Are we doing hardy board versus Durarock? Or drywall? Are we putting a mantle up? Because we actually we should have a sign off that we don't want a mantle shelf up there. Because they may say they want it clean, but then all of a sudden it's Christmas time. Well, where am I going to hang my stockings? That's a different, now you're like, wait a minute, that's a different conversation. So those are some of the things that, that we've been working on a lot.
Got you covered. So Cheryl, what about you? What's your thoughts on this, of what's happening out here in the real world, of why it's taken so long to do jobs? We're not turning stuff out efficiently and effectively. What's your feeling on what's going on? I mean, you interview a lot of people. You know the demand for quality workers that's out there. Is it the workforce itself, or is it a lack of supervision here that does this?
It's a combination. I mean, it really is. My thing, I go back to something we talked about years ago, which was called fumbles and handoffs. I honestly believe that from the time the beginning information is handled, a lot of times it's not moved from place to place effectively, and information is dropped. I know our CRMs now are getting more information where things can be seen, but are the employees paying attention once it's done? Is it being dropped? Is it dropped by the CSR? Is it dropped by the technician? Is it dropped by the foreman? Or is it dropped in literally just in any other section? But with a lot of the hiring pool now, I'm just going to use that, have never been presented with production work. And that's what most any job is anyway. You produce something from point A to B, and they've never been introduced to it. Then we stick them out there without the full boat of training. Then on top of that, we have nobody to supervise them. And as you say, call it a foreman or whatever you'd like, you need somebody there to keep it on time. That way it stops that process and moves it to the next.
And you've hit on some key things, I think, because I'm seeing people that are getting on top of this process when they finally realize what the problems are. And one of them is having the quotes reviewed, where somebody reviews the quotes that are getting out there, not just the jobs that we actually sell, but review every quote to make sure that the quote is being done properly. I know that one client of mine I talked to earlier this morning, they have resolved a problem of improper measurements in ordering custom product, which that can be a really big issue. And they did this because they changed some personnel. Just to be honest with you, we found out the problem was the guy that was ordering the product wasn't properly ordering it. So by making that change, he has resolved a big waste issue in their company. Another one has hired a production manager. The production manager is reviewing all the quotes, making sure everything can be done. Because I think we need to realize we may have people selling products that they have never done this type of installation before. I mean, Josh, you said a while ago, stone veneer. If they've never done stone veneer, do they realistically know what's involved? And also, are they properly explaining it to the customer? Because here's what we often see. We're seeing companies that work on a job site for 3 days, 5 days, whatever, and now the customer is not happy with the end result. And I think this is coming from lack of communication with the customer during what's going on. Chuck Roydhouse just added this in here. Chuck, you're dead on the money. Having systems in place known by all, correct job costing, including all labor, material, overhead, desired products, set expectations, work lean, ongoing in training, investment of employees to create the company culture. Once set up, inspect for what you expect. Chuck, those are words that are dear to my heart. I kind of know where you got those words from, and realistically, you've hit it dead on the money. So, Josh, let's go back to you. What's the answer here? How do people fix this problem?
Well, I think you talked about a production manager, but someone that sets the pace for the work. That's a big thing. Is as we talked earlier, and I believe the reference comes from like Checklist Manifesto, but there was a reference to a steel mill and the number of turns. I'm going to use the word turns, but the number of production runs they were able to get done in a shift, and just goofing around. The night shift scribbled down, just made 3 slashes, 2 slashes on the wall. And the morning shift guys came in and said, well, what's that? Well, the night shift guys did 3 turns. And then all of a sudden there was a sense of pride. And now the morning shift has to do 4 turns. And eventually that production, whatever their production maxed out, but just having, some sort of sense of pride or, hey, we can do better, made, up production significantly for that company.
Yeah. And, I thought Chuck, and what Chuck just wrote, this is key also. You can have the greatest SOPs in the world, but if your people aren't following them, Josh, if they're not filling out the forms, what do we do?
You got to sit. You have to hold their hand to the fire. It's, and I've been doing research for my clients too, and it's, natural stone doesn't go up nearly as fast as veneer stone. So there should be 2 different labor rates for that. And then how do you charge? And then, of course, and then there's brick veneer, which is another one too. So what is the labor rate difference for those 2? Is it, if you're a new salesperson, you have to dumb the process down, stop making them think about the bags of mortar, the number of hours, things like that. You can backfill that in if you have, we have a flat charge of, let's just say $2,000. That's for the first 40 square feet. And every square foot after that, it's, depending on the product, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. I've seen it higher than that for those products, with natural stone being the highest. So coming up with simple, easy to bid solutions makes a lot. If you're wanting someone, let's just say if you're the one I've seen bid prices get better, because if you're going around with a catalog and then you're asking the guy to say, okay, multiply by this, add that up, they're not going to do it. I watched, we used to, our slate and marble was something I really witnessed this with at our shop. We used to be able to buy it in like 4 different sizes, and all we had was a cost. Then you had to figure in your multiplier and your freight and this, that, and the other. Well, they just wouldn't bid. They wouldn't bid out fireplace. They wouldn't bid out slate and marble. But when I came up with a retail list, I said, okay, here's everything figured out for you. All of a sudden, now we're selling tons of the product. So how you build your price book can be a big factor there.
Okay. So again, we've got to have the systems. We got to have the forms. We got to have the training. We got to have the knowledge. We got to have the supervision. All these things are part of it. Also, we got to do the quality control checks, make sure our estimates are right. Would you agree with everything I just said?
Absolutely. I used to review all my orders, 100%. Every one of them got reviewed.
And if a guy told you, Josh, I just don't have the time to do that, what would be your response?
Just hope there's not something I can throw within arm's reach.
Yeah. My response is until you do it, you're going to keep hitting your thumb with the hammer.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to keep doing it.
No,
Carol, yeah.
you're just
You
gonna
have
keep making.
something else, Josh? Go ahead.
I was going to say one of my biggest pet peeves is a panel that doesn't cover a fireplace. You know, that's one of my biggest pet peeves in the world. Is like that's one of the easiest things to check, and it happens over and over and over at store after store after store.
Yeah. Ordering in a custom panel and it doesn't cover the fireplace opening.
Yep.
Or a
Happens
glass
all.
door that doesn't cover it, or a chimney cap that don't fit, a chase cover that don't fit,
Yep.
wrong liner size. All these things come into play. It takes the
Yep.
training, it takes the systems, it takes the supervision, it takes the accountability. It takes all these things as a combination.
Yep.
So Cheryl, you could look at it from a manufacturing standpoint. How important is this to turn the product out? When you were making outdoor living components, those components had to go onto a truck and be shipped somewhere else in the country. There was no way you could go out there and fix that easily. You were dealing with custom product. So what's your thought? Any additional thought process you got here?
Well, we did quality control all the way through, hopefully to catch anything you could catch it while it was in the stage that got messed up. And if you didn't, sometimes we have photos, we could fix it, via seeing those, and my contractor could fix it, which I hated.
Yeah.
But the thing about it is the only thing I've got to say, with all the things we've talked about today, it still all comes back to having the employee bought in and willing to do his part to fill in all the holes, to make it right by the SOPs on time and correctly. And so we start at the top of the ladder with the salesman and work down, but if we can't get our employees bought in, if we can't have a class of the type of employees that will buy in, it doesn't matter what you do above this step.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I see people talk about business and they gauge it. I've got a $1 million a year business. I've got a $10 million. I got a 20 million, 100 million, 200 million, whatever it is. That's not the important thing. The important thing is the bottom line net profit. And to deliver that net profit, you have to produce and provide the product or the services that you're selling at a rate that delivers profit on every single job. Just like Chuck said, doing the job costing, seeing what it's costing you to produce is vastly important. So hopefully this has given you a couple ideas today. If you're having this problem, that jobs just aren't turning out profitable at the end, it's time for you as a manager. You got to take a hard look at what's going on and where is the problem and how do we turn this around. And with that, we're going to end this episode. We appreciate you joining this week on this episode of the CBC Home Service Success Network. Join us next week. Hopefully we'll have another great episode for you that'll give you some great information you can use to move your business to where you want it to go. Talk to you next time. Appreciate you being here. It's an honor, a privilege, and a pleasure.